A school for the deaf in India, a student who set out to prove his Adventist friend wrong, and an urban centre of influence in North America. All that and much more coming up next on Global Mission Snapshots.
Just before he went up to heaven, Jesus gave us a command. He gave us a mission. Jesus said, "Go. Go unto all the world, telling them of His love." This is our mission. This is our global mission.
Hello, I'm Gary Krause and welcome to Global Mission Snapshots. Too often as Christians, we brush aside people's physical needs. We ignore their wants and their hurts, and we go straight to the Bible and to spiritual issues. When Jesus was here on earth, He fed people, He healed people, and He touched them physically, often before He began to meet their so-called spiritual needs. One of the best ways to follow Christ's method of ministry is through urban centers of influence. These are small centers of holistic outreach. Today we'll talk to Wes Via, Director of Simplicity, an urban outreach initiative in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We'll also talk with Cheryl Doss, Director of the Institute of World Mission, about how following Christ's example works despite cultural and language differences. But first, let's visit a school for the deaf in India.
To most people, a crowded city street in India sounds like this. But since Sundrama was born, city streets sounded like this. You see, Sundrama is deaf. She cannot hear or speak with words. She talks with her hands. Sundrama was not always able to communicate using sign language. When she was young, she couldn't go to school because the school could not accommodate deaf children. Her family was sad that she would not receive an education like the other children her age. One day, a woman knocked on their door and told them about a school for the deaf run by the Seventh-day Adventists and invited Sundrama to attend. The family was so happy they could hardly contain their excitement. At first, Sundrama had a difficult time learning. She was not used to school and missed her family. But the more time she spent here, the easier it became and the more she wanted to stay. Sundrama eventually learned sign language and could talk to her friends. At this school, she also learned about Jesus. The teacher would take the class outside and teach them all the lessons of the Bible. Sundrama was fascinated by the stories she learned. She loved the Adventist education she received. Now Sundrama is older. She shares her faith with her family and neighbors. When people don't understand sign language, she writes notes to tell them of Jesus' love. She can read and write in English and her local language. If it were not for Adventist education, Sundrama would not be able to communicate and share the way she does now. Please pray for this school and other Adventist schools throughout India. Pray that they can teach our children the wonderful lessons of Jesus. And thank you for supporting the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
I'm pleased to introduce our guest, Dr. Cheryl Doss, who is the Director of the Institute of World Mission. Cheryl, thanks so much for joining us. We're talking about something that is dear to your heart, which is the way that missionary families adapt, cope with the challenges of being missionaries in another culture. Why do you have an interest in this?
Well, probably because I come from a missionary family and experienced it firsthand. My parents and myself and now our children have moved their families internationally, and I can tell you I know how difficult it is and also how rewarding it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm very interested in helping other families who are doing the same thing.
So one of the major tasks of the Institute is to help prepare Adventist families who are going as missionaries to other cultures. What sort of things do you teach them and interact with them about?
One of the things we realized early on was the fact that they have picked up their families and just come to Mission Institute, often across numerous time zones with children who may be sick or in the midst of a transition, that we need to start right off with talking about transition and what that means for families. And there's some really good tools out there to help missionary families understand what they're going through, and the fact that it is a normal process. It's normal to have a lot of grief attached to it. Anytime you've lost a life, lost so many things, you've had to say goodbye to people and places and all those things that are dear to you, that's a loss. It has to be grieved. And the transition itself often feels very chaotic because your stuff is somewhere in the world, your family is somewhere in the world, you don't know how to live or act in this new place. And so there's an inner chaos that goes on as well as an outer one. And the entering process can also be very challenging as one tries to find a way into this new place and figure out how to live here and how to relate to people. They say that culture shock is being out of rhythm with the culture. Every culture has a rhythm, and you're out of rhythm, and that's an uncomfortable place to be. You're marginal to the culture. So helping them understand this process and the fact that all these feelings, emotions, the stresses in the family, this is a normal process of doing a very difficult task.
Yeah. So you work through this with them. Now, when they actually get into the field and they confront challenges, is there anyone they can turn to, or what do you advise in that situation?
Well, we give a number of resources during the Mission Institute, books that have articles and so on that address the different issues involved, schooling issues for kids, and those sorts of many of those types of things. And then they can also return to us. We are quite happy to have them write to us if there's a need. But one of the neat things with social media right now is that every group of missionaries during Mission Institute has their own Facebook page. This is a closed group, a hidden group, so they can be quite open and honest. They've made good friends during their time together, and we have people posting things on there. I hit the culture wall today, please pray for me, that sort of thing. And then they feel supported by this group that they have spent 3 weeks working through the issues with.
Now, one of your challenges, of course, is it's not like you're dealing with people who are just coming from America to go to other countries. They're coming from all around the world.
Yes.
So you're dealing with culture on the end of where they're coming from, different. I mean, how do you juggle it all?
Yeah, well, one of the important things we try to do right at the beginning of a Mission Institute is to create a safe environment where we can explore our differences and our similarities.
Yes.
Because we need to affirm the fact that God has created us in so many different ways. He's given people the ability to creatively make cultures that are so diverse, and that's a God-given gift to His church. And yet we do know that when people get out to the field and there's nobody that speaks their heart language, this can be a very lonely place to be. So how do you create community across those kind of cultural, linguistic barriers? And so we try to do that during Mission Institute to give kind of a pattern for it. We make people sit at tables with those who are very different from themselves.
Okay.
Nobody can sit with somebody else of their own nationality, for example, or hopefully their own profession. We try to mix things up so people actually practice it during Mission Institute. And then, of course, being forewarned is often forearmed. If you know that you're going out to a place where there won't be anybody who is just like you, then you're a little more willing to accept the discomfort that comes and the difficulty of creating new relationships across not only to the national culture but to your fellow workers who are also different.
Yeah.
And we try to help people figure out ways to keep connection with their home culture, ways in which they can create support for themselves from the home.
Which raises the issue of when they actually come back to their home. How do we deal with that challenge then?
Well, we have a reentry program here in the U.S., and it is more of a debriefing than an educational thing, where people need to sort through their experiences, because the intercultural experience is very intense. It's emotionally intense. It's physically often intense as well. Certainly socially intense, and that intensity sears the memories into to one's heart, but without a way of processing through them, it's hard to integrate it into the new life one's going to.
Right.
So that process of reentry also becomes very important to their ongoing service for the church.
Okay, that's great. So we've been focusing on the challenges, but
Yeah.
what about the joys? I mean, how does this affect young people in a family who go for this sort of experience?
Well, as we now have 4 generations of missionary kids in our church, and I mean in our family, in my personal
Yes.
family, and so I can tell you it's quite possible to raise kids who are excited about the mission
Yeah.
God called them and want to continue that mission, but it helps to have the tools,
Yes.
and that's one of the things we try to give. There's excellent literature out there. There's good support on the internet now you can get for missionary families. Understanding that this will change your family's life forever in ways that can become a strength to your family and bring a lot of joy. I think missionary families in general are people who, though they have faced challenges, they've overcome them.
Yes.
And that has made them better, broader, stronger people.
Enriching.
It can, and
Yeah.
it should do that. That's
Fantastic.
the goal.
Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us
Yes.
today. Viewers at home, I grew up always at home, and for family worship we would pray for the missionaries. I think that may be a bit of a lost art, Cheryl, but we need to pray.
Yes.
It's so important. To help remind you, we would like to send you this calendar. If you live in North America, the details are on the screen. The Faces of Mission, a beautiful face from around the world for every month of the year, and it will help you to remind you to pray for these special people. We'll be right back after this break. I'm glad to welcome our guest, Wes Via, who is working in Allentown, a city in Pennsylvania here in the United States. Wes, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
You're the director of Simplicity, which is an holistic urban ministry. How did you begin being involved in this initiative?
Well, the conference looked at the layout of its population in the state of Pennsylvania and realized that 86% of the people live in the cities. And so that kind of spurred them to say, okay, maybe we should start looking about how do we have a very intentional approach to get into these urban areas where most of the people live that are in our region, so that we can do something to reach those people.
Fantastic. And so you've started a urban center of influence right in the heart of the city, connecting with people's needs. Tell me a story of someone whose life has been touched through this ministry.
Yeah. Well, one of the big things that we do in the cities, and this is everywhere you hear about it, is children's ministries. And so we have a number of things that we do. We started out with some small groups for teens and middle school age kids. That led to a small group for younger kids because their siblings were coming and they wanted to come, and we have a children's breakfast on Sabbath mornings where we teach them principles of health and Bible stories. Out of that network, there was a young boy named Donovan that started coming to the breakfast. And the first day that he came, he wasn't really into it. They're singing the songs, and he's just standing there like, I'm not gonna participate. Cool. And but he kept coming, and he kept coming. And over time, we started to see a change in him. And finally, around the end of 2013, he connected into one of the small groups that we were having for his age group. And the first day that he was there, they were talking about the gospel, and the missionary that was leading the group was telling the kids about how Jesus wants to give us eternal life and that he wants to forgive us for the bad things that we've done, and asked them if they wanted to accept Jesus and have forgiveness. And he did at that time. And sometimes you think kids are just kind of going with the flow, but he got done and he said, so you mean to tell me that I get to live forever now because of Jesus? And she said, yeah, that's right. And the change in this young man, he's 9 years old, absolutely amazing. Another lady that comes and volunteers at our center used to live above him, and she said when she saw him recently, she didn't even recognize him. He was so mean, and he was such a kind of ornery kid, and she wouldn't even let her kids play with him. But she said, I didn't even think it was him. I thought he had to have a twin brother that was just nicer, just looking at him. And he's just on fire for Jesus. And the other day he was leaving a program. We had a cooking class for kids after school with healthy snacks. And he was getting in the car with one of the missionaries, and he had brought his sister to the group. And so they were driving down the road, and someone cut him off or something. His sister cursed. And he looked at her, he said, you shouldn't talk like that. We're in the presence of God. Wow. And so just to see the impact on a young person, that showing concern and care for them and just being interested in them can have. We have a story time Once a week, kids can come in and we'll read them stories. We had 3 girls that were coming. 2 of them were sisters, I believe, and they asked if they could have a Bible after about 3 weeks. They said, "Can we have a Bible to take home? We really want to read the Bible." And they came back the next week and they had already read like the first 30 pages. But what's even more amazing is that they started writing out summaries of what they were reading and then giving it to their mom so that their mom could read their summaries of what they were reading in the Bible.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing.
And so you were telling me recently that you are reaching kids who come from like 3 generations of families that have never attended church.
Yes. Yeah, the interesting thing about our approach, which is very simple, showing concern and being interested in what's going on in the lives of people, has had the unintended effect. We didn't set out to do it, but with few exceptions, the people that we interact with, the people that engage with us, that take Bible studies or come to our center for the various services, are all unchurched people. And so these kids, their parents are not much older than them in some cases. These kids are hearing the stories for the first time because their parents didn't know the stories, because they weren't taught by their parents. And so there's this systemic issue in North America where there's generations being raised up that have absolutely no knowledge of God, no knowledge of the Bible. And so when they hear these stories for the first time, it's like fresh water, to parched lips. And that's where I really feel that when we come into the cities, we have to be aware of that, that we're coming to an audience that doesn't have a baseline knowledge that where we can just launch into Bible studies all the time. There's some that, we get there and they see that we might offer Bible studies, man, they want them and they're hungry. Some people ask us to teach them how to pray. There's a desire for spirituality. But there's a lot of people where we have to start very foundationally and show, like Christ, this care and concern for them, where they will be willing to hear what we have to share with them about Jesus.
Wes, you mentioned prayer, and you've had instances where some of the young people working with you have offered to pray for people and it's touched their lives. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we had one lady, we met her, and she came to the door and was really going through a rough time. Some legal issues. Her children had been forcefully removed from her house because of some false allegations, and they talked with her, and as they were talking with her, she opened up, told them a little about what was going on, and they offered to pray for her. And when they did that, this lady, she later told me, she said, "I only said that they could pray for me because I didn't want to be rude. They seemed like nice people," but she was not a Christian. She didn't believe in this stuff. In her words, the Holy Spirit came on her. She said this peace and just power just came over as they were praying, with this assurance that everything was going to work out all right. And the very next day, she went to court. They got the kids back, and actually the case was just dismissed this last week. And it's totally revolutionized her life. She is sold out to Jesus. She says, "I can't believe I'm one of those Jesus freaks now. That everyone I talk to, I want to tell them about Jesus."
That's wonderful. Yeah. So, Wes, if some of our viewers are thinking, "Wow, this is something that I believe in," and they would like to support financially, how can they do that?
Right now, we are a ministry of the Pennsylvania Conference, and so they could reach me through our website, simplicitymissions.org, and then they could make a tax-deductible donation through the conference.
And of course, you welcome prayer as well.
Yes, always.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Gary.
Viewers at home, remember simplicitymissions.org, and please pray for Wes and his team as they minister in the mission field of an urban center right here in North America. And please pray for mission all around the world. And if you want to find out more about Mission to the Cities in general, please go to missiontothecities.org. If you would like to receive this free mission calendar, don't forget, go to adventistmission.org or simply call our toll-free number 1-800-648-5824. Now let's visit an Adventist school in India.
Meet Dabjur. He attends Flays Adventist College in India. One of the campus's favorite activities is volleyball. Everyone gets in on the fun, even the college president. Dabjur is studying theology with hopes to become an Adventist pastor someday. But Dabjur was not always an Adventist. Before he was an Adventist, Dabjur would walk from his home to a nearby village to visit an Adventist friend. They would discuss religion, and Dabjur would always try to find fault with the Adventist message. One day they discussed the Sabbath, and Dabjur found that he didn't have all the answers. He decided to study the subject on his own and spent some time in prayer. After studying, He was convinced that the Adventist beliefs were true. He couldn't keep it to himself, so he decided to tell everyone in his village the good news that he learned from the Bible. Dapjer walked from door to door, telling people about the Sabbath. Some seemed interested, but not everyone was open to his new beliefs. The village leaders told him if he wanted to be an Adventist, then he could not be part of their village. This was where Dapjer grew up, where his family lived. This was his home. He was sad, but eventually Dapjer made the decision that was most important to him. He was forced to leave his village. He went to the train station to find a place to go. While at the train station, he met someone his age and started talking to him. Dapjer came to find out that he was an Adventist. Dapjer could hardly believe it. His new friend told him that he was going to Flay's Adventist College to study theology. Dapjer prayed and felt God was calling him to go too. The two of them rode trains and buses together for the week-long journey to Flay's. Now Dapjer loves his theology classes. He has learned so much about the Bible at Flay's. He has made new friends who support each other and study the Bible together. Many of these students travel far from home to receive a quality Adventist education. Although Dapjer's decision to leave home was not easy, he knows that God will reward his faithfulness. Please pray for Dapjer and other students at Flay's. Pray that they will continue to find the strength to be faithful servants of God. Thank you for supporting mission.
I hope you enjoy watching Adventist mission stories as much as we enjoy sharing them with you. And I hope you've been challenged by what you've seen and heard on today's program. If you would like to learn more about Adventist mission or to support mission work around the world, visit adventistmission.org. There you'll find mission stories, missionary videos, missionary blogs, pictures, and much, much more. And please pray for Cheryl Doss and her team at the Institute of World Mission, as those they have trained are serving God in mission around the world. And please pray for the Center of Influence in Pennsylvania and centers in urban areas all around the world. Pray that they'll multiply. Pray that they'll touch many, many lives with the healing hand of Jesus Christ. As we close this program, we leave you with this song called Honor the Lord. Thank you for joining us here on Global Mission Snapshots. Until next time, I'm Gary Krause. God bless.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him. He shall direct your path. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh, and it will be strength to your bones. Honor the Lord, honor the Lord with all you have to offer. Even the small is enough to bring honor. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh, and it will be strength to your